Welcome to the worship service of the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock in Manhasset, New York. I am Janet Bendowitz, a member of the congregation and a worship associate. Ours is a congregation of people with different theological beliefs but shared values. Foremost amongst them, respect for the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Within the framework of our shared values, we covenant to respect each other's beliefs and spiritual practices. Each Sunday, we take a little time to consider together a theme or topic that connects us to our values so that we can live into them more fully and with deeper spiritual insight. In today's service, we consider together birdwatching as a spiritual practice. Our special guest is Cassie Montenegro. Cassie is a class of 2023 Master of Divinity student at Harvard Divinity School, where she is studying religion and literature, and is on the Unitarian Universalist ordination track. She is a teaching fellow at the Harvard Chan School of Public Health and identifies as a queer, cisgender, Cuban-American woman of color. Now, let's center ourselves as we enter into a time of worship. People with different beliefs who worship together as one faith.
We're searching for the single yellow-headed blackbird. We've heard commingles with thousands of starlings and brown-headed cowbirds. When the many-headed body arises and undulates, a sudden congress of wings in a maneuvering wave that veers and wheels, a fleet and schooling swarm in synchronous alarm, a bloom radiating in ribbons, in sheets, in waterfall. A murmuration of birds that turns liquid in air, that whooshes like waves on the shore or on the breath of a great seething prayer.
For the joy of human love, brother, sister, parent, child, friends on earth and friends on earth, gentle thoughts and love, gentle thoughts and love, Lord, oh Lord, to thee we raise this our joyful hymn of praise. For each perfect gift of thine, to our rest so freely given, praises you, men and divine, flowers of earth and bonds of heaven, flowers of earth and bonds of heaven, Lord of all, to thee we raise this our joyful hymn of praise. This our joyful hymn of praise.
Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need. This do we affirm and covenant with each other.
In our Unitarian Universalist congregation, we covenant to plant seeds of care and compassion. We hope to grow strong trees of justice. One of the ways we live into these actions each week is by taking up a collection for organizations which seek to bring help, hope, and healing to individuals, families, and communities in desperate need of greater justice, equity, and compassion. This collection today is for the annual school supplies drive for the children of the village of Hempstead whose parents are incarcerated. The organizer of this drive is ABBA, Able Body of Believers Alliance, an organization founded and directed by Reverend Reginald Benjamin. While ABBA's major focus is job training for returning citizens and others who struggle to find employment, Reverend Benjamin believes in responding to the needs of the entire community. One vehicle for this response is the school supplies drive every summer. Your donations will help purchase needed educational items for these children, thereby supporting their efforts to grow in mind, body, and spirit. There are 3 ways you can donate: through our website at UUCSR.org, over text at 516-210-2528, or through PayPal. Please give as generously as you are able in this time of even greater need. Thank you for your compassion and your generosity. Together, may we continue to build a more just and joyful world.
Anxious angel, I'll wrap you in heart-shaped bubble wrap so you won't get hurt. No, to be soft is to be strong. Pretty angel, the happy crowd is standing in blinds you see us weeping, 'cause real life is not that fun. So we'll fake it when the show is done. Baby, when the lights go out, hold your breath and count. I will follow you down. We're the anxious angels. Baby, when the lights go out, hold your breath and count, and put your wings back on. We're the anxious angels. Precious angel, I'll wrap us up in salt water blankets, then we'll ask the mermaids if they can spare some room for us. Sweet sad angel, you think everyone else got it figured out. They're just pretending, 'cause real life is not that fun. And they fake it till they're feeling numb. Baby, when the lights go out, hold your breath and count. I will follow you down. We're the anxious angels. Baby, when the lights go out, hold your breath and count, and put your wings back on. We're the anxious angels. We're the glitter in the darkness. Playing soft, heartless, yes. We're the glitter in the darkness. Baby, when the lights go out, hold your breath and count. I will follow you down. we're the anxious angels. Baby, when the lights go out, hold your breath and count, and put your wings back on. We're the anxious angels.
There are things you can't reach, but you can reach out to them all day long. The wind, the bird flying away, the idea of God. And it can keep you as busy as anything else and happier. The snake slides away. The fish jumps like a little lily out of the water and back in. The goldfinches sing from the unreachable top of the tree. I look, morning to night. I am never done with looking. Looking, I mean, not just standing around, but standing around as though with your arms open. And thinking, maybe something will come. Some shining coil of wind, or a few leaves from any old tree. They are all in this too. And now, I will tell you the truth. Everything in the world comes, at least, closer and cordially, like the nibbling, tinsel-eyed fish, the unlooping snake, like goldfinches, little dolls of gold fluttering around the corners of the sky of God, the blue air.
Good morning. I'm so grateful to UU Shelter Rock for having me back again today. For me, a spiritual practice is something, an act, a ritual, a witnessing that brings me closer to the connectedness of truth, the reality of the energy swirling within, around, and through me, through us, through our communities. At times, that collective energy is so strong, it feels as if I am part of a murmuration of starlings or of blackbirds, traveling in sizable flocks that fly in tight patterns, tight formations, in complex patterns. Murmurations that were part of my South Florida upbringing in the late 1980s, early 90s, and that were even more plentiful in number in the mid-1970s in my father's youth. My father describes these murmurations as rivers or a river of birds. I always wanted to go up there and reach them. Earlier this summer, at the age of 37, I moved my life to Cambridge, Massachusetts. I say it was a move over 7 years in the making. However, the calling came much earlier. It came as a child, then as a teenager, and then in young adulthood, but a call I hadn't learned to listen for. It is a calling that is enlivened each moment that the Spirit of life calls me into humble dialogue, a dialogue that involves more listening on my part than anything else. And the irony is I'm preaching today, and hopefully I did a fair amount of listening before writing these words. I'd like to hope so. The clear, bold pull to live into the realest, most authentic, truest parts of my being most often arises when I am bearing witness to the wonder that is present in the oneness of it all. Oftentimes those moments are like the ones where the birds are speaking to me. Like the first morning I officially went birding. It was about 6 a.m. on a prairie in Gainesville, Florida. I was with a wild, well, not that wild. I was with a wildlife ecologist who's a friend from law school, and she was a longtime bird lover. I didn't even know loving birds was formally a thing. She was the one who saw the owl first. And I can't remember which kind she said it was. We're going on close to 10 or 11 years now. But the being was magnificent. It was small, well, not that small, but small in comparison to a human. And it was brown with streaks. And it was looking right at me, right at us. It was as if time stopped and granted me permission to witness one who was looking back at me, really looking and really listening. It was as if we weren't as separate from the owl, from nature, as I had thought us to be. And I remember a deep calm set over me. And if it hadn't have been for my friend, I would have missed the moment. Recently, my 95-year-old grandmother reminded me that I always loved birds. My grandfather, Yayo, he would prop me up on an outdoor brick barbecue at the end of the day. I would stand tall with his hand on my back and holding me steady as I would wave goodnight to the birds that passed over their home in Hialeah. A witnessing, an acknowledging, a despedida. That goodbye, that daily, that nightly goodbye was my first experience probably with birding as a spiritual practice. though I don't think I would have named it quite that then. It's taken me about 36 years to recognize it as such for myself. As a devotional act of honoring something beyond ourselves that was ushered intergenerationally from grandparent to grandchild. These were some of many important, if not understated, moments where they modeled reverence, wonder, and love. These days, much of what I find myself doing is reclaiming the wonder and connectedness of my youth. It was years until I would make and incorporate a bird watching practice into my own adult life. For a while, I birded alone, thinking I was the only woman in her mid-30s in Miami-Dade County who was drawn to this practice. I just didn't know where to look outside of the birds. That was until I discovered the Phoebes, a kind and generous group of women affiliated with the Tropical Audubon Society, and who started an all-female identifying bird group committed to inclusive intergenerational birding and post-birding potluck brunch. Operating and leading as a collective, the organizers of the Phoebes took turns taking on different aspects of the bird walks. Each experienced birder with their own strengths. It was about slowing down and spending time observing and learning and teaching one another and ourselves about the birds we saw. Really, the teaching was from the birds. It was about helping one another in those moments to make sure that everyone on the walk, at whatever level we came in with, had the opportunity to witness and connect as we wished. With the birds, with one another, with ourselves. When I began birding with the women of the Phoebes in this otherwise really large metropolitan city of Miami, I noticed that there was a quiet reverence about these women. An openness that few of us experience in most secular spaces. And for me, as a budding student of religious studies even then, that was it. The Phoebes aren't creating secular space, at least not from my perspective. They were living into the sacred space that is already around and within us. And that so often we're not listening to. And thus we view ourselves separate and apart. For me, being in community together in reverence of the birds was and is a dynamic, relational, spiritual practice. It's one that we can do anywhere there are birds, anywhere that we are willing to be in reverent relationship with them and one another.
When I was a girl, I had a favorite story of the meadowlark who lived where the rivers wind. Her voice could match the angels in its glory, but she was blind. The lark was blind. An old king came and took her to his palace, where the walls were burnished bronze and golden braid, and he fed her fruit and nuts from an ivory chalice, and he prayed, sing for me, my meadowlark, sing for me of the silver morning, set me free, my meadowlark.
Our closing words today are some special ones for me to read. They were written by a professor of mine, Terry Tempest Williams, who delivered these words at the Harvard Memorial Church last spring. And she has taught me through her writing and through her being of who she is in community with all of her students, that what our responsibility is to be in community with one another, and that one another includes the birds. I pray to the birds. I pray to the birds because I believe they will carry the messages of my heart upwards. I pray to them because I believe in their existence, the way their songs begin and end each day, the invocations and benedictions of earth. I pray to the birds because they remind me of what I love rather than what I fear. And at the end of my prayers, they teach me how to listen. Many blessings to you all.